Hey, welcome to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby along with Logan Halaby. We have a couple of guests with us today from Castaic Lake Water Agency and Newhall Water Agency. We're going to get some details here in just a second as we move forward and learn some of the pros, cons, the challenges about the current merger that's proposed right here in Santa Clarita. So for a lot of you, if you're listening to this anyway and you're in the Santa Clarita Valley, you're most likely having your water delivered by one of these services. And through that process, you've seen rate changes, you've seen service changes, mostly for the better, but there's been some challenges with all of us, especially with the growth here in Santa Clarita. We have seen, probably, at least since I've been here, since 1998, probably another 80, maybe 100,000 residents. Well, that takes infrastructure, doesn't it? It takes water, sewer, electricity, roads. All of those things impact you. It impacts your pocketbook. It impacts what you're trying to achieve. And so we're going to get into some of those details here, but I'm going to have these gentlemen introduce themselves as we go forward. To my right please go ahead.
I'm Steve Cole. I'm the general manager at Newhall County Water District. We supply water service to just shy of 10,000 service connections in the valley in a few different portions of the community.
Now, when you say service connections, that means it could be a residence, it could be a business.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're predominantly residential, our service area, but we do serve many businesses as well.
And so you're in a territory of Santa Clarita? Can you give me an idea of what streets, what areas?
Sure. We have a pretty interesting service area in the valley. We service what we'll call the Newhall community, kind of Newhall proper here where we're at the radio station. We also service out to the northeast of Sand Canyon, which is known as Pine Tree.
Okay.
And then
Sure.
we service the the community of Castaic, pretty much north of Parker. And then we also service Tercero de Valle up off of Copper Hill.
Yeah, so you service our business here. We're located next door to the radio station and our other little building down the street. So we're getting service from Newhall County Water District, and then we're also getting service, Matt, from your particular area.
Right. So I'm Matt Stone. I'm the general manager for Castaic Lake Water Agency, and we do a couple of things. We provide imported water to the entire valley, which includes the Newhall County Water District service area and 3 other retail service areas. So that imported water may come from the State Water Project. It could come from other water rights that we've purchased up in Central California and from banked groundwater. We operate 2 large regional filtration plants to purify that water before it's sent down to folks here in the valley. And then we also operate the Santa Clarita Water Division, which is one of the retail entities, and that would be towards the east side of the valley for the most part, and up just onto the edge of Valencia, as I was corrected, is a relatively new resident of the valley, and that has about 30,000 connections.
So you guys will sell water to yourself, it sounds like.
Yeah, we operate it as a separate financial division so that the accounting's kept straight and the costs are appropriately allocated between wholesale and retail.
So do you wholesale it to your subsidiaries for the same price you wholesale it to the other?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we set a rate structure through a public process, and then we charge ourselves that wholesale rate.
Yeah, back to it. So there's a merger, Steve, that we have on the books here. You know, one of the things that we talked about a little bit before we came on the air is a little bit on some of the challenges with a merger, right? Whenever there's less choice, we have to very carefully review that as an option because it's called a monopoly. Now, as we spoke of, some things need to be that way for certain reasons, certain delivery reasons, infrastructure reasons, but why is it that it's a good idea to merge all of the water districts instead of having them exist and compete independently?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at what we're considering, and we've been talking about it as creating something new, a new water district, and I think that there's terms involved, but I think it's important as far as the vision of what the electeds have for this valley and what we're considering. But I think when you look at water, we are natural monopolies. We do that for specific reasons, meaning that you don't want duplicated infrastructure running down to service the same customer. And so when you look at combining the agencies in the valley to form this new water district, we really think that it's going to be able to provide some efficiencies and some economy of scale to the service that we provide.
And what that means, I guess, in English for us is there are duplicate jobs, right? In other words, you're going to have two people right now that do whatever it is, accounting. Well, you only need one person. Or we have two people doing this. So there's going to be some jobs, I understand about $1 million, $2 million worth of duplicates through attrition, retirement, that in fact can be replaced. And so one of the things that we're looking at, Matt, is a savings to me as a consumer. I have 3 or 4 different places that I write checks for the water, different water districts here. What is that going to do to me as a consumer?
Yeah, I think in our analysis of it, the savings come from several places. One is staffing reductions over time as we can integrate our operations and combine positions and allow attrition to take care of that. Initially,
so will there be a period of time when we're paying 2 people to do the same job?
Well, you're doing that now.
2 different companies.
Right. So the idea is you're going to be able to do the same amount of work ultimately with a somewhat leaner workforce. The other area we're going to save is on outside services. Each entity has to have a legal counsel. Each entity typically may have other outside consultants for auditing and that type of thing.
Sure.
So there's some savings there, and then there will be some savings in the cost of the governance structure as well over time as the size of the board is reduced.
So then that means for a period of time we're going to be paying for a board twice the size? Wouldn't it happen
today,
like if
you're doing that, and the idea is the plan will transition it over a relatively short time to a 12 board members for the valley rather than the current 16 that we have.
And then how much time do you think that'll take? What's the current plan?
The plan is over 2 election cycles. So we want to start with the original 15 that have been elected and put on the board, elected or appointed and put on the board, so that we're not unseating anyone through the action, and then we'll allow the voters to determine which of those directors will return in subsequent election cycles. So by the time you've completed 2 election cycles, the board will essentially belong to the ratepayers, and everyone will have an equal say in the seats in their area. So each area will have 4 seats that they vote for.
And so one of the things that we
kind of
looked
drifted off your economics question, but I'll get back to
That's
it.
okay. What we try to do is try to keep things simple and easy to understand because it's so difficult in today's world.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just we're good at what we do, and we have a level of jargon that we're used to.
So let me get back to the simple answer on the economics question.
Yeah.
We estimate the savings to be about $1.6 million a year over the 40,000 connections that R2 retail entities serve. That runs out to $40 per service connection per year.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to do the math.
Yeah.
So you saved me some time. I was going to get on that quick.
And if you spread that over the whole valley, it's a little bit more than $20 per service connection per year.
So often in the Department of Water and Power in Los Angeles, basically the big brother that's over the hill, one of the biggest, in my opinion, I have to use the word scam and fraud very carefully. I don't think it's that. I think it's the word just before that, where they said, "Oh, we have a drought. Oh my gosh, everybody! So we're going to have to cut back 20%." And in fact, we did here. We cut back. And then the next year they said, "Well, our infrastructure, our pensions, our payroll. You don't understand. My secretary makes $85,000 a year. She needs a pay raise." And so, of course, people were using less. They got a pay reduction in their bill. They were happy. Water was happy, except the entity wasn't. And in fact, they raised rates. This year, next year, water will return, 2 years, whatever. Guess what will happen with rates? Will they reduce them? Probably not. So are we going to have that kind of level of shell game? Hey, it's only $10 a year per person per dog or whatever they're going to do in their household, the tricks that they use?
Yeah, I think we've tried to be conservative with our analysis of what the potential savings are. And we certainly, one of the things we're not doing is we're not going out and saying this is going to result in slashing rates. There are other cost drivers that will be there. The cost that we pay for imported water continues to go up. The cost to treat water continues to go up. And so those things will continue to happen, but it's like anything else in your household budget. You're looking for the places you can economize. So we have found an area that we can economize in, and that's what we would intend to do.
So
and that will take pressure off that overall budget. So just as in your monthly household budget, certain things may go up. If you can find a way to cut your cable bill, you're going to take that and do it.
So when Steve Cole from Newhall Water District, Steve, tell me, when we had a big reduction, right? A lot of us saved. I mean, you should see my front lawn. It looks like Mojave Desert. So we all cut back. A lot of us did. We changed the way we did things. You're not washing the car and letting that hose run. Like when I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, we just did that. It was the way it happened. So we cut back. How much did we save here in the Valley over the last couple of years, percentage-wise?
Each agency keeps track of that individually, but roughly it was about 25%.
Okay.
So yeah, the community did, including yourself, a tremendous job of saving water when we asked them to. It's kind of a unique thing, and this is going to be a topic that, frankly, we think the new district, if we get there, we'll be able to be better prepared to handle as far as a single place to communicate our water use efficiency message.
So if we as ratepayers and consumers, if we reduced our consumption by 25%, should it not be some level of pay decrease for those that work? I mean, we have clients there. I don't want them to make less money. I have friends, but you're an entity that's charging people a monopoly fee. We don't have a choice. Should you guys not have taken a pay cut of some sort to kind of meet us in the middle?
I think when you look at it, I think each agency dealt with it, how they dealt with it. What you saw was, I think, each agency tried to control the cost that they can control, and I know for our agency that meant we reduced some staffing over the time period, and we worked hard at doing that. I think when you're dealing with water resource agencies and ones that are actually delivering a service, a resource to the community, it's extremely important to not just shift your expenses based upon demand, meaning that you want the resource to be available not only today but in the future. And so a lot of the money that goes into these agencies are ensuring the future, not just what we're experiencing in today's year.
And the city of Santa Clarita has done an amazing job at managing its books. I can tell you, it's shocking, if you will, being in our industry and hearing the Stockton, California, Mammoth Lakes, San Bernardino, the state of Rhode Island, Detroit, the state of California. It's fiscally a wreck. The United States, right? We're $20 trillion in debt. And yet the city of Santa Clarita seems to be managed in a very healthy and a decent way. Can you tell me that the water districts currently are that way, and then do we expect there to be reserves and managed properly in the future? Tell me where we are now. Do we have a reserve, dollar-wise?
We Newhall County Water District does, and it's my understanding that other agencies do as well. So yes, we are in a good financial position. I think one of the things that we really focused on was the ability to make sure we had those reserves, so when we entered this reduction in usage, that they were available, so that we were able to smooth out the impact of people using less water, and that has worked fairly well.
Gary Martin is one of the elected officials and is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And to have people like that with such a depth of knowledge of water on multiple layers is very helpful to us in this community. Moving forward, we're going to be able to retain that talent and people like him.
Yeah, and pretty much everybody on both boards, with the exception of we've got one or two appointed positions, but all of them are elected, and I think the electorate will make that decision on who to return each time, and it will depend on who's running and how a campaign is waged. So that's the political part.
That's the side of it, yes.
But that's also getting back to that accountability to ratepayers. That's really where the rubber meets the road in terms of ratepayer satisfaction. And I would contrast that if you're a ratepayer in a PUC regulated utility, you've got to send a letter up to San Francisco or fly up there to testify in front of the commission. Or if you're lucky, your utility will have a local hearing at least. But personally, I'm a fan of the idea of local accountability, that someone potentially from your neighborhood or your part of town is sitting on that board that you happen to know, or can call up and make your feelings known to, or come out to a local board meeting.
One of the things that we look at is that historic time that we have created this valley, and it's kind of been hodgepodge put together between the extreme of a planned community of Valencia all the way through to 5 and 10 acre lots that are on the outskirts that are now slowly being absorbed into the city. This new agency will have, it seems anyway, significant power in the state. And with its negotiating power, I guess that's part of the goal, is to have one big voice for a community that's growing, that has a history. What can you see as the future of water specifically for people like us in this community? And you're new to this community, I understand.
Yeah, I'm new here. I've worked in the water resources field for over 30 years, and I've been in 2 different counties. And I've actually worked for an agency that went through a merger of different parts, and one that had done so in the past and was living that future. And it's all about getting the size of the agency to the right scale. So you don't want it so big that it's unwieldy like a DWP, although I guess people in DWP might take umbrage, so apologies to any of those who are out there listening.
Well, look, the individuals that work for DWP are, I think, amazing people.
Yeah, and I have friends there. So
so do I. I have clients that are very... the structure is unbelievably...
but it does become harder and harder to manage something that big. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's essentially scaled to our valley, and for why it's good to do this, even beyond the economics, it really comes down to California is a very complicated place to
do business, to live. Yeah, for sure.
And we have this dual ethos, right? We have this strong Western individuality and individual rights, and we also have this idea in California of an environmental ethic that continues to get reaffirmed at the ballot box and in the courts. So as a water provider, we get to kind of live in both worlds. We try to provide individualized customer service, but we've got to deal with issues like the unarmored 3-spine stickleback and groundwater regulations and surface water regulations for quality, and we have to do that while still providing service. So our vision is this, that the things that matter from a water resources management standpoint in this valley all happen at a regional scale that goes beyond any one retailer, and we'll be better off if we're all in the same room with the same governing board having that discussion. So a couple of examples, the groundwater basin goes beyond any one retailer. We all sit over it and share it. We all have to collectively manage it.
Do we pull from the same well?
We have multiple wells, but we pull from the same aquifers.
So we pull from the same aquifer. Obviously, I know there's multiple wells across the valley on one end and the other.
Yes.
But that same aquifer that we're pulling from, who owns that aquifer?
So under California law, it's essentially owned by whoever sits atop of it and can pull the water out, unless and until it's adjudicated. But the new law that's coming into place is each area has to set up a groundwater sustainability agency to manage their local basin.
So what is also called as a recharge, or taking gray water, sewage water, I guess, and treat it, of course.
Yeah.
But dishwater, laundry water, all that kind of stuff, putting that back into the system, letting that percolate down and become...
And the rainwater if we ever get rain.
Yeah.
And even something as simple as deciding this year we're going to buy more imported water and allow our wells to recover and pump them less. If we're operating in a unified way, we can better make those kinds of management decisions that are more long-term and have a better return for the customer instead of maybe just local or parochial in nature.
Sure. We're going to come back in just a second, folks, as we continue with Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour with Matt Stone, Castaic Lake Water Agency, and Steve Cole from the Newhall County Water District, as we talk about a potential new era in Santa Clarita Valley water management, a potential merger, and how does that affect you and the rates when we come back. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby.